This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shasheena Rolle. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news for several weeks now, motorists on Grand Bahama have been struggling with a bad gas situation that's been crippling their vehicles. There is a new development in connection with the alleged bad gasoline here on Grand Bahama, and as Sabrina Brown tells us, motorists can now be expected to pay more at the pumps.
It is believed that the unleaded fuel distributed by Freeport Oil Company was responsible for the apparent bad gas crisis that erupted on the island recently. ZNS News can confirm that unleaded gasoline is no longer being offered at service stations around the island. Motorists filling up will notice that pumps are now labeled premium or super. Many residents are concerned about this latest development. Community activist Troy Garvey is one of them.
Is that super? Or they just change the name? I want to know which one. Is it legal for them to do that? Is it legal for them, if it is super, to just put one particular gas on us that we don't have no choice no more in what we run off? All cars don't run off super.
Garvey believes some motorists are afraid to speak out, and he's calling on the Consumer Affairs Division to look into this matter. Now, as for the bad gasoline situation, the community activist says he's conducting an investigation of his own. He says he's in the process of having a sample of that gas tested.
I already have the gas that came out of my car, and we're going to send that over hopefully by the beginning of next week.
Garvey admits that Focal paid for repairs to his vehicle, but he says only after he took his story to the media. He says many residents are victims of this issue, and he's troubled by the way they are being treated by the company.
When you go in down there to get your stuff sorted out, you got to keep going, calling when they don't return your calls, which was very, very frustrating. It was like a slap in your face that you trying to get something from them that is their own, that you trying to beg for.
He's also advising persons making claims to Focal to read all documents carefully before signing.
They have a waiver form making you sign a waiver that you cannot bring no more claims against them, and they have on it present and future. But for the record, let me make it clear. I signed that for present. I scotch out and future, and I signed for present because I have no problem signing for the present because they did give me my money to fix my car. And so, for future, you telling me now that if you bring bad gas again and my car get caught in a bad gas situation again, you can pull this waiver from your files and say, see, you signed this for present and future?
ZNS News contacted Focal for a comment, but we were told that an official statement will be released on Friday. Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
Well, the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce expressing concern about the 2013 customs management regulations. Now, Chamber President Barry Malcolm says the organization has followed with interest the changes in the customs tariffs on behalf of licensees and has sought clarification on some tax changes. He says the Chamber feels there was an absence of public consultation before the new customs tax code was put in place. He believes it will have a far-reaching negative impact on the community.
In drafting the changes, there's a view that there was no substantive consideration given to the specific impact on Freeport under the auspices of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. That many of the newly introduced changes will specifically harm the already weak economy of Grand Bahama. That the fallout from these changes will affect competitiveness of both international and local businesses in Freeport and threaten the loss of jobs. That most, if not all, of the resultant changes from these tariffs will ultimately be passed on to the local community.
Now, the Chamber leader says in response to these concerns, members of the Chamber have requested that action be taken to preserve the competitive economic advantages and opportunities for investment in Freeport and maintain Freeport as a viable center for trade and commerce.
The actions being contemplated are not intended to be confrontational, but really are instead intended to be consultative. To vent the concerns, provide a forum for the concerns that impact us as business people here in Freeport to be clearly articulated and understood, and hopefully to bring about a public discussion and a discussion with the powers that be to ensure that some positive reconsideration is in fact effected. And hopefully bring some positive reconsideration of some of the changes that have been put forward in the customs tax regime.
Executives of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the Grand Bahama Development Company have returned from the National Association of Black Hotel Owners and Operators Conference held in Miami, Florida. Port President Ian Rolle says the conference provided opportunities to interact with hundreds of hotel investors, top hospitality industry professionals, and delegates from throughout North America and the Caribbean who are considering the Caribbean and in particular the Bahamas as the place to do business. Rolle says the port has made decisive efforts to collaborate with government and other private sector groups in promoting Grand Bahama and its investment opportunities. Police here on Grand Bahama seizing a substantial amount of illegal narcotics on Grand Bahama. It's the second seizure in less than a week. Reports say officers confiscated 9 square-taped packages of suspected cocaine with an estimated street value of $225,000. Officers of the Central Division, while conducting road checks in the Settlers Way area yesterday afternoon, reportedly observed the driver of a white 2005 Oldsmobile Alera acting in a suspicious manner. Now we're told the driver of the car made attempts to avoid capture, and officers pursued that vehicle until it eventually came to a stop in bushes on East Indian Man Road and Balea Road, where the driver was able to escape. Police say officers conducted a search of that vehicle and discovered a red 5-gallon bucket that contained the 9 square-taped packages of suspected cocaine. Now, on Friday of last week, DEU officers acting on information searched empty containers at the transshipment terminal and reportedly discovered 50 pounds of suspected cocaine valued at around $500,000. His conviction on gun charges was quashed by the appellate court, but this former police officer says he remains in limbo. Tonight, he is making an urgent appeal to the powers that be to make a decision on his future with the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Back in 2009, Officer Dion Morris and Ronaldo Bethel were handcuffed and hauled before the court in connection with gun possession. One day after he was convicted of that crime, he says he received his walking papers from the Royal Bahamas Police Force. However, after winning his appeal in March of this year, the former police officer says he has yet to hear from the Commissioner of Police, Ellison Greenslade, whether or not he will be reinstated.
If the organization don't want me to be a part of them anymore, right? Or the commissioner don't want to reinstate me anymore, bring this matter to closure. I have family to take care of. I have kids. I have a daughter, just came out of school. I want to send her to college. I need what the system has for me to move on with my life. I don't need to be coming back and forth. I don't need to be running behind them. If they are finished with me, then give me what you have for me and let me go. Simple.
Morris says he's growing wary and needs a quick decision so he can move on with his life. He says being charged of a crime as an officer of the law has changed his life forever.
Fighting the case for all these years, all my life savings, I had was depleted. My child was in private school. I had to take her out of private school. My other kids, I couldn't send them to private school because this whole situation, which I was accused of, and I had nothing to do with it.
This ex-cop says the system has failed him and adds that from his experience, it could boil down to politics, whether you are accepted back on the police force.
You have some police officers who the system would accept back, and some they wouldn't, right? You have officers who went to prison, been convicted, went to prison, appealed, their case came out, and the force took them back, and they got promoted, which isn't fair, because if you set a precedent, you should stick to that. There are many officers out there who won their case, and they are in limbo. You understand? No one want to pull them in and make a decision. Listen, you win? Okay, we're going to set you back. Okay, we're not going to accept this one. We're not going to accept that one. You understand? It's time for them to do their job also.
He notes that according to the Police Act, the Commissioner of Police has a mandate.
It's time he do his part reference to the Police Act. That's all I want. That's it. There's no See, the thing is, anyone doing me no favor. That's not a favor. I shouldn't sit down and be begging for that. That is the job. That's your job description.
He is making this appeal to Commissioner Ellison Greenslead.
I would just like for the Commissioner of Police to hurry bring this whole situation to closure. I would really love to see the Commissioner. I would like for him to just try and send for me as quick as possible and let me know what his position is reference to me. I'm a man, 41 years of age. I have kids. I have my life to deal with. And I don't want no one to have me on standby. I think I've been on standby long enough.
Well, we weren't able to reach Police Commissioner Ellison Greenslead for comment as he is out of the country. However, Deputy Commissioner Quinn McCartney told us that the matter involving Dion Morris is currently under review and a decision could be made soon. Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition continues right after this.